I love how Black Mirror's USS Callister sequel title is AJJ. Abrams' Star Trek joke. When USS Callister premiered as part of Black Mirror's fourth season, it immediately became one of the show's most iconic episodes. A pitch-perfect mashup of dystopian horror and sci-fi satire, the episode wasn't just a love letter to Star Trek, it was also a sharp critique of toxic fandom and the god complex often hiding behind geek nostalgia. Now, with a sequel reportedly in development, fans are thrilled. But what really caught my attention is the title of the sequel, which might be the most hilariously meta, genre-savvy joke Black Mirror has ever pulled. According to early reports and showrunner teases, the sequel to USS Callister is tentatively titled USS Callister Into the Unknown. At first glance, it seems like a standard, ominous subtitle meant to convey more galactic mayhem. But if you're a Star Trek fan, and especially if you follow the J.J. Abrams reboot films, there's a deeper joke here. Because this title is a not-so-subtle riff on Star Trek Into Darkness, Abrams' infamous 2013 sequel that tried to be bold, mysterious, and emotionally profound. And instead, it turned into one of the most polarizing Trek films ever. In fact, Into the Unknown may as well be Charlie Brooker's way of trolling J.J. Abrams in the most Black Mirror way possible. And I love it. USS Callister was already a better Star Trek than Star Trek. To appreciate the joke, it helps to remember what made USS Callister such a standout episode. The story centers around Robert Dally Jesse Plemons, a reclusive tech genius who builds a virtual reality version of his favorite sci-fi series, Space Fleet, based obviously on Star Trek. Inside this simulation, he inserts digital clones of his coworkers and plays the role of the heroic, all-American captain, while subjecting his crew to nightmarish scenarios when they disobey. It's simultaneously a celebration and a takedown of Star Trek's utopian idealism. Dally's version of Space Fleet is an authoritarian fantasy masquerading as old-school heroism. The digital crew, led by the newly uploaded Nanette Cole Kristen Milioti, ultimately rebels against him, ending the episode with the simulated characters escaping into the open universe of the online game. What made it so brilliant wasn't just the clever visuals or the Trek tropes, it was how it dissected them. USS Callister understood Star Trek so well that it could parody it with both love and precision. In many ways, it was a better Star Trek story than the ones being told by the actual franchise at the time, especially the ones from J.J. Abrams. Into Darkness, the misstep that launched 1,000 memes. In 2013, Star Trek Into Darkness arrived with a sleek trailer and a mysterious marketing campaign that promised something dark and revolutionary. It was the second entry in Abrams' rebooted Star Trek film series, following the crowd-pleasing 2009 movie. But fans quickly became suspicious of the secrecy around the villain, played by Benedict Cumberbatch. Despite denials, Cumberbatch turned out to be Khan, yes, that Khan, from Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. The reveal meant to shock and excite, instead fell flat for most fans. It felt like a shallow attempt to manufacture emotion by leaning on a classic Trek legacy moment, with none of the original's depth or context. The movie was visually stunning, and the cast remained strong. But the story tried too hard to be edgy. It took the Star Trek formula and wrapped it in Abrams' trademark mystery box structure, ultimately leaving fans divided. Was it bold or just loud? Smart or smug? The debate continues, but one thing is clear. The title Into Darkness became a symbol of Abrams' tendency to shroud mediocre ideas in shiny mystery. Which is why Black Mirror's use of Into the Unknown as a sequel title is so perfect. Into the Unknown is the ultimate meta joke. Let's break down the layers here. First, USS Callister is already a meta-satire of Star Trek, especially the glossy, authoritarian leanings of some reboot-era sci-fi. So when the sequel chooses a title that sounds suspiciously like Into Darkness, it's not just a coincidence. It's a direct nod. Into the Unknown plays on the same tone, vague, dramatic, but ultimately hollow. It mimics the way Into Darkness tried to sound philosophical, while actually delivering a pretty basic revenge plot. Even the phrasing hints at the kind of Abramsian faux gravitas that became infamous in the 2010s. And here's where it gets deliciously ironic. While Into Darkness was pretending to be deep, USS Callister actually was deep. It tackled ideas about identity, ethics, and technology, and the performative nature of heroism. It was funny, thrilling, and disturbing in equal measure. So for Black Mirror to now echo Into Darkness with its sequel title is like Charlie Brooker winking at the audience and saying, "We're going to go dark, but we actually know what we're doing." What could Into the Unknown actually mean? Beyond the joke, the title might hint at what direction the sequel will take. At the end of the original episode, the crew of the USS Callister was freed from Dali's control and left to explore a massive multiplayer online galaxy. In a post-credits gag, they encountered a toxic gamer voiced by Aaron Paul, suggesting the universe was still full of threats. The sequel could now focus on the digital crew navigating this chaotic new frontier. Without a god to oppress them, they may face the wild west of internet culture, griefers, trolls, rival players, and the remnants of their own programming. Into the Unknown could symbolize true freedom, but also uncertainty and danger. Unlike Dali's rigid Star Trek-like world, they're now in a realm governed by unfiltered digital chaos. No prime directive. No fake captain. Just an infinite universe of possibilities and threats. And that would be the ultimate inversion of the Abrams model. While Into Darkness tried to make Star Trek edgy by copying The Dark Knight, Black Mirror's sequel could show that you don't need a grim tone to tell a story with real weight, just smart, character-driven storytelling. A new captain, a new mission. With Dali presumably dead or comatose, leadership will likely fall to Nanette Cole. As the true hero of the original episode, she's a much more compelling captain than Dali ever was, rational, ethical, and capable of inspiring trust without demanding worship. This alone is a brilliant inversion of the J.J. Abrams model. In the 2009 reboot and its sequels, Captain Kirk was reimagined as a cocky hothead with daddy issues and a motorcycle. Nanette, in contrast, earns her authority not through fate or legacy, but by proving herself under pressure and protecting others. Her leadership might be tested in new ways into the unknown, especially as she and her crew grapple with a galaxy that doesn't follow the familiar Star Trek rules. In fact, the sequel could dive deeper into questions the first episode raised. Can a digital consciousness find meaning in a world with no real stakes? Can freedom exist without purpose? Do artificial people have the same rights as their creators? These are Black Mirror questions. But they're also very Star Trek questions when Trek is at its best. Charlie Brooker out Abrams-ing Abrams. If Charlie Brooker continues the Callister story with the same intelligence and dark wit as the original, Into the Unknown could be a sequel that both celebrates and demolishes modern sci-fi tropes. By choosing a title that parodies Star Trek Into Darkness, he's not just poking fun, he's setting the stage for a smarter, more self-aware kind of space opera. And let's face it, Brooker has a better track record than Abrams when it comes to sci-fi storytelling. While Abrams builds,